Yes, welcome in. It is the Awesemo betting show here on Awesemo Odds. Thrilled to be a part of this brand new venture as we launch our maiden voyage today. Myself, Ben Rasa at Jazz Raz DFS at Shander Show for me. Jordan has been roped into producing the show, so must have drawn the short end of the stick here. But look, we love the fact that we are able to provide you a live show on the Awesemo Odds channel, an interactive show on the Awesemo Odds channel to not only explain our positions and where we're feeling as far as some money-making bets, but more importantly, and this is where Ben Rasa steps in better than anybody we have on the entire channel, to educate you so that you understand why a move is being made or why a bet is not being placed. And I can't do that alone, God knows, as you're familiar with the show, you know that. So Rasa's in the house here as well. And I got to be honest, brother, I don't know what I'm more excited about, the return of the NFL season that kicks off tonight, or being able to do this show with you 3 days a week and dive into a ton of different angles and elements and really be educated from the betting world, especially with you carrying a lot of that baggage.
I couldn't be more excited. I love the start of NFL and I love DFS, but as many people know, the betting markets are where I feel most comfortable. It's my first love sports betting. And it's just so great. You know, a year ago, there were some states that were on board. And now, as everybody knows, we're shifting in the right direction. More and more people are able to do this. We've got BetMGM taking us home today, sponsoring the show. It's absolutely fantastic. And we just have so many options out there, Eytan. That's my favorite thing to talk about. It's not just anymore, who do you like in the game, Dallas or Tampa? We're going to talk about that, of course. We have every single player prop imaginable. We have alternate lines. We have teasers, parlay, anything that you want, we can break down. Doesn't mean there's going to be a bet, but there's absolutely a worthy conversation.
And that's the element. I think the goal that we'll try to strive for every show is that people walk away entertained, but they also walk away informed. And now, as everybody has a play and everybody's making a bet nowadays, the difference is really in the details. The difference is why somebody's making a play and explaining. And look, we're going to be on a couple of days a week, so there's plenty of opportunity for me, probably more so than you, to come on and say, yeah, not only did I get killed by a beat, or not only did I lose that bet, but what happened, what went wrong, and kind of examining all of the things that go into placing a wager. And then from the opposite end of it, looking back a little bit and experiencing, look, it's great to win money, and that's what the goal is here, but we also want to inform and educate while having some fun. Real quick, you mentioned BetMGM, and we're going to remind you about this throughout the show today, but use our promo code Awesemo when you sign up, make a deposit, and place your first wager. It's a risk-free bet up to $1,000. So if the bet loses, you'll receive that amount of your wager, up to $1,000 risk-free, back in free bets. Just register now. All of the action on the King of Sportsbooks, BetMGM, in Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, the capital, Washington, D.C., and West Virginia. Terms and conditions apply, of course, depending on where you are. But this is awesome, man, just to be able to dive into kind of your mind and how you approach the betting element, as you mentioned, which is different from DFS. So let's start with the season. Let's just start overall. Like, what's the process? What's the Ben Rasa process in getting ready to bet week one of the NFL season? And then we'll look specifically tonight as far as you mentioned, from player props to the game itself.
So one thing that's unique about week one is that the lines, the spreads in terms of sides have been out for like months. We don't see that. They get a long time to marinate. And we've seen, some drastic shifts already. Now, the player prop side of it, those aren't released nearly as early, and we're going to get into that. But I really just try to, it's a fine line. And this is what I want to get to. And Chad, I'm sure we'll have takes on this. And I know, Eytan, you'll have takes. It's such a fine line between looking what happened last year and realizing that it's a new team and there's new personnel and it's a new season. So, you got teams like Tampa, who comes in, of course, off the championship, and they're absolutely loaded. You've got Dallas, who, their season unraveled. You think it's just going to play the same, but you also know that you can't just look at the box scores from last year and make assessments off that.
It's a great point. And I think that everything, as we'll continue to talk, nice to see Eric Lindquist in the house here.
Yeah. He's in Italy, this guy, living the dream.
Wait a second. That's right. He's in Italy, I'm sure, for a wedding or something important,
Crazy
right?
Character.
And he's spending time with us. If that's not an endorsement of what we're doing on this show, I don't know what is, brother. But to your point really quick about the carryover, I think that there is, as always, there's going to be some gray area. There's going to be, dare I say, some maneuverability. And we'll talk a little bit deeper in week one tomorrow as we look at the whole schedule. Tonight won't be as much of an example because Dallas does return some key figures, even now rejuvenated and healthy Dak Prescott. But we'll get to some games on Sunday, specifically with my Eagles, where you actually can go from like that center point of having a new team and a new face and some new bodies there to the extreme, which is like everybody's new. And that is a lot of variance where I don't necessarily know how much people want to dive in the deep end. But to your point about tonight, it's the usual suspects with the return of Dak Prescott on Dallas. We have everything that we've seen from a team that got super red hot towards the end of the year, eventually winning the Super Bowl, picking things up in Tom Brady. So while there's a new team and a new season, et cetera, I feel like you can lean a little bit more on what you know is coming back for this game specifically, not necessarily a blanket statement for week one.
So I think Tampa absolutely is a low variance team. Not a lot of drastic changes. The core returns, Antonio Brown has been integrated. Godwin, we're looking at the news and notes right now. Godwin looks like he's good to go. No problems there. A healthy team. I think Dallas has more questions. Is Dak okay? Obviously, we're going to find out tonight. How big, and we know it's big, Zach Martin is not playing. That is a massive loss. What does that do? And what does it do to the number? We've seen Tampa take some money. And what does it do to the player props? Those are questions that we have to answer. So I agree with you. Tonight, Tampa's a pretty low variance team. I expect them to look a lot like the Super Bowl champs. Dallas, can they return it? And then also Dallas's defense, which was atrocious, particularly early last season. Where did they pick off? Did they make a leap, or is this the same old Cowboys team?
I think the issue of their defense is definitely one that we cannot ignore by all means, especially when you look at the difference of Tampa's defense and how much they can take advantage of Zach Martin being down. Look, Lyle Collins has not been ruled out, but playing through that stinger this week and clearly playing through injury is another factor on the offensive line. So looking at a two-team game like tonight, where you don't have anything from the week prior and you're trying to go back to previous years, which is, again, more of a mistake than not, Ben, I think the one thing that jumps out to me, the glaring issue that I can't get around and therefore I won't bet on, at least to try and win back on something positive for Dallas, is the question mark about their offensive line. And it's not just Zach Martin, but it starts clearly with not having one, if not the best guards in the game out there. And then the trickle-down effect of all of that surrounding, from Dak Prescott being on his back to how difficult it's going to be for Ezekiel Elliott to run the football consistently.
No doubt about it. Like I said, this is where I love to get into it, because you see Zach Martin's out. The line moves a little bit. Tampa, is obviously they've crossed 7 and they're up to 8.5 and whatnot. But the player props are also affected. And that's where sometimes you can jump on this. Okay, what does Zach Martin mean for Zeke? I mean, I think that's obviously the predominant guy that could be affected. You mentioned Dak. Are we going to see Dak running tonight? That's one of my questions that I wanted to get into as we look towards the game. How mobile will he be? How willing will he be to take some, timely scrambles and whatnot, or is he just going to be a statue back there? These are questions that I think we can create some value with, and that's why I'm very excited to jump into this game.
There's another element too that I just want to look at before we start to dive into the game itself, and that just is anybody kind of on the outside, any ancillary player that has the ability, and some of this may be, as far as a backup is concerned, getting more reps if it's Pollard with Zeke struggling, or if it's Antonio Brown to Rob Gronkowski, guys that are not necessarily at the top. And that's more from a player prop standpoint for the most part as well. Now, look, out there, we only ask a couple of things here on the show. First and foremost, that you subscribe to the Awesemo Odds channel, the Awesemo main channel, our DFS channel, and of course, our fantasy football channel, where you'll see myself and Ben and Lofty on there a couple of times a week. But also, we don't technically have a name for this show quite yet. It's the Awesemo betting show on Awesemo Odds. And Ben had a great idea pre-show, which is just to throw it to the people. There's nobody better that knows this channel, that knows what we're all about, than the people who are in our chat, right? So why not let them at least get first crack at naming this program?
I love it. Yeah, chat, we're going to be throwing that out there. You got good thoughts, you can drop them in chat. You could tweet us. It's going to be a work in progress there as we find the perfect name for what is going to be a straight perfect show. I have no doubt about it. But I listen, we're only 10 minutes in, but I got to tell you, we got to dive into this game. I just have to start I just see it staring at me. I want to talk some football, and we are about to do it.
Let's look at, all right. Do you want to look at the game first, or do you want to
Yeah.
start with Ezekiel Elliott first? Because I think you and I both have some pretty strong opinions on Zeke, but we should probably look at the total and the line just to kind of open things up. You mentioned 8.5 as far as where it's moved, point and a half really from open. The total hasn't budged at all at 51.5, despite a lot of money coming in, depending on how you view that, a lot of public money coming in on the over. And I went under right away. Like that was the first play that I saw when this schedule first opened up months ago. It feels like it was sitting at 51.5. We know 51 is the highest of those key numbers for totals. It's just the first week, man. It's the first game of the first week. Both of these teams had issues last year. Both of the quarterbacks went through some sort of medical procedure this offseason. We don't really have the preseason like we used to. The line, and I'm curious to where you are on this, Ben, the line is a stay away from me, even as it's moved a little more in Dallas's favor where you can get 8.5 points. I absolutely smash that under 51.5 just because I think Dak's going to struggle. And overall, you're going to see more of a preseason element to the game than you are regular season element.
Yeah, I mean, generally, when I bet unders and I have not taken a total here, I wait just because the public loves overs. They like scoring. Everyone tends to get them. Unders, I usually wait to lock in because the numbers normally gravitate over. I don't really have a strong take. You mentioned the preseason. We haven't seen these teams certainly at full strength, and particularly with the Bucs. Like I said, they come in intact. You know what you're going to get there. I do. God, it's such a rarity. It's the first show. I may not mention this for the rest of the year, but it is a pretty unique scenario at 8.5. That is one of the numbers. If, and I say if, you are interested in teasers, that is a great number because you cross both 7 and 3 if you have a 6-point teaser. So you can move Tampa from 8.5 to 2.5, and you're going to get the key numbers of 7 and 3 through that. A Wong teaser and whatnot. Obviously, you're going to have to pair it up with some games on Sunday. I do think Tampa's going to win this game. I certainly, if I was going to bet it, would have wanted it at 7. I don't think I want to lay 8.5. Yeah. I do have some interest, though, in either reducing Tampa via teaser or looking at some type of money line pairing with them. Because at home against this Dallas team, I do think when we dig into the personnel, we're quickly going to find that Tampa is just a better team.
I love the notion there, and I think you can apply it without getting deep into these other games, which we will on Sunday. But just as far as the back end point that you made about dropping this 6-point, again, you're saving value there, right? Because the line has done the work for you. You don't need to run that 7-point line or even that 7, or depending on where, what you're looking at, even higher. That 6-point teaser is going to cross through those 2 key numbers, and on top of that, you're still resting on that field goal, which I think it would take a miracle for Dallas to keep a game this close, but there's no way Tampa is losing. And you want a narrative here, Ben Rasa? This is where the rings and the banner and all this announcement is coming. They're making all this hoopla about it there, that they're winning the Super Bowl the previous year and honoring everybody for that. Hard to think that Tampa comes out with Tom Brady leading the charge, sluggish, like, they forgot how to play football. So I love dropping them at 6. And then all I would say is if you can find another 7, even a 5.5 point favorite, dog, pardon me, and you wanted to drop that, then it would be something to work with. But the strategy there is fantastic. Would you apply it to the total? Would you feel a little more comfortable going under 57.5? I don't know how you wouldn't. But I think I can take that same logic and apply it to the total, right?
You can look to that. I will say generally teasers, you're not getting nearly as much value with a total just because it's a large number. You're moving from, 51.5 to 57.5. When you're dealing with smaller numbers, you're obviously sustaining more value. So I generally don't mess around with teasers and totals together. That's something I wouldn't. But again, I think there's opportunities. We're going to talk live betting on the show as well. If you think there's a fast start, you can wait and you can clear over, you're going to get a live number better than 52. And 52 is a really important number because games end 28-24 frequently. That is a very real possibility, as well as 31-21. So if you can get under a number over 52, that's going to create even more value for you in the future. But I think Tampa's going to win the game. I'm going to stay away from the total right now. And I don't even love laying the 8.5. I do think Tampa, though, is a pretty solid piece if you're going to look for some more exotic type bets coming into Sunday.
I have to say, I feel better about you staying away from something than going against me on it.
Yeah, I'm not staunchly against it. It's just generally, think about it like a basketball total, let's say it's 225. Adding 6 to that is not actually that useful. Whereas if you're talking about something that's very low, you're creating a lot more value with each point. That's why I'm not going to go on a big tangent here, but generally with teasers, that's why you don't want to cross 0 either, because you're losing one of the points because those points are meaningless. So little things like that can make a big difference. And that's what this show is all about. It's about picking winners, but it's also about explaining some of the logic behind what we're trying to do here.
Right. 0, 3, 7. There are lines that are going to be really difficult for the books to move through. So normally, as Ben just said, just to reiterate that, you're on BetMGM, you're working a teaser out here. It's a waste for you to take somebody that's a 5.5 point dog and run a 6 or 7 point teaser, mainly a 7 point teaser there. Whereas if anything, you can apply it to the favorite and flip it. So real quick to follow up, is the mentality for you, just to kind of clarify for those who are still trying to angle the teaser and work that more so than the parlay, which is definitely more control that you have on the ticket. Are you doing that for both? Or are you doing that just for favorites there, or pardon me, dogs there, where as far as moving the line with the spread through 0? Both teams, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would just never want to move a team through 0 under any circumstance, really. I think that's just something you want to be careful of if you're looking for teasers. So ideally you're moving through 7 and 3. That's creating the most value. Again, there's more intricacies than that, but that is general. Man, Tampa really is taking money. I see some 9s out there right now.
It's crazy.
Very, very interesting. And I get it. I do. But man, that's going to be, if you like Dallas, you might want to, I don't think it's going to get over 10. That would be truly stunning, but the way it's moving, keep waiting and to hit the Cowboys, because it looks like they're going to be not the public side right now.
I don't know if there's a number. I mean, I'm seeing it 9.5 in as well. I mean, it's moving and moving. And here's the thing. I mean, take it for what it's worth, right? Because we've got one game tonight, so you're going to have a ton of tickets in there, over 60,000 tickets. I'm looking from action here. 56% of the bets, accounting for 57% of the money of that 63 plus thousand, are on Tampa. So it would stand to reason that the line would move. But initially, I'm seeing at the initial open, it's 6.5. That's a 3-point swing from the day one of the schedule release to where we are now. And my point being is, it's not like you have a ton of the public money on that. You still have a lot of money accounting for Dallas. Now, I think I know where you may be going on this and saying this is also a living, breathing organism. So a lot of Dallas's money, or maybe even Tampa money, could be coming in over the last day or two. This is not something that's specifically static, right? It's a fluid movement of it, but that's a huge move of a line, 3 full points, depending on where you're looking at it here. That's not really accounting for more than 55, 56% of the total money.
Yeah, again, week 1 is unique in that regard because you've got a lot of time for it to marinate, and we still have, 7 hours till kickoff. There could be some moves. It's obviously, barring some type of injury, it's not going to get over 10 or under 7. It's going to land in somewhere in this area, but I'm not surprised to see that. So again, for me, you have to take the schedule. I know it's the first game. Everybody wants a wager. You can't force it, though, if you don't see the value. For me, the value is in finding a way to get Tampa exposure. I don't want to lay the 8.5, the 9. I think you can do that. I know you're leaning to the under, but I think we both kind of think maybe digging into some of the player props is where we can unlock some of those hidden gems tonight.
I think so. And that's really the big starting point's going to be on that offensive line for Dallas, not just because even with the healthy Zach Collins, there's Martin, pardon me, there's nothing, Gonzaga in the brain, I don't know why, but there's nothing that would even indicate that it's going to be a cruise control or just an easy voyage for this Cowboys going up against offensive line, going up against a really tough Bucs defense. Now, without Zach Martin out there, I mean, the total for yardage on BetMGM for Ezekiel Elliott, we had at 52.5. And I think initially people are going to see 53.5. So it's bumped up now a full yard.
Good. Keep going.
Yeah, seriously. And look, let's be honest here. People are going to look, the average sports bettor, Ben Rasa, which you are not, is going to look at this and say 53.5 yards. Are you kidding me? He's going to smash that. Oh, he's healthy. He's back. They probably won't even look so much at the offensive line depletion beyond Martin with Collins as well. But look, this is a really easy pathway for an underplay for me with Zeke, Ben.
I'm with you. And Chad, I know we were talking a little before the show about this. I like the under. Tampa Bay, one thing, even before they got Super Bowl worthy, the one thing we knew is that teams just couldn't and didn't even want to run on them. It was just not going to happen. They've been absolutely dominant as a front. Last year, number 1 in the NFL in opponent rushing yards per attempt, 3.8. That is not going to work tonight for Dallas. Even if they had Zach Martin, I don't think that was going to work. Now, Zeke has been adamant already. He mentioned losing Zach. Now you got me saying Zach Collins. Losing Zach Martin is as important as any player on that team. He is who they run behind. He opens up those holes. So you have a two-part question here for me. One, there's a very real chance that Zeke has, double-digit carries, and he's averaging like 2.5 yards per carry, and he's not going to get there. There's also a very real chance that Dallas falls behind and they say, you know what? We've got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Gallup, Pollard, Zeke can catch the ball. We're going to just start spreading them out and throwing the ball. We have no interest in running up the middle into the strength of the Tampa front seven. So I think there's two ways, whether it's volume or efficiency, that Zeke is stifled tonight. I already have placed this bet. I am going under this rushing yards total for Elliott tonight.
I love it. And the return there, I don't know what you got on it, but it's barely juiced, if you will, to the under at 53.5. So maybe you got something favorable under 52.5. And that's a lot of what we'll try and do here, especially because we have a couple of days a week, Monday, Thursday, Friday, 1:00 here Eastern time on the Awesemo Odds channel, to explain a little bit more in detail and hopefully try and get things before they move. Right. I know everybody's in on the CLE, the closing line, CLV part of me. I think that I'm getting my terms mixed up from Law to Collins. But there's something to it where, especially in the NFL, like that's what I'm really excited about Monday's show on, is not just to recap what went right and hopefully not much that went wrong, but to really look at how your brain enters the early odds, right? The look ahead to the actual week 2 odds and then so on. And it's trying to get ahead of something. So in this case, it's clearly a smaller example because we only have this one game. But if you got in at a 52.5 juice to the over, then you're looking fantastic right now as this thing has moved just 1 yard and the value has flopped down now where it's juiced to the under because obviously there's an extra yard on top of it. So that's a great example, Ben, of what you'll continue to talk and show through experience of getting ahead of reading something ahead of time before the public acts and then the lines move accordingly.
No doubt. I mean, the other thing, props is not nearly as, in terms of the size of the market, like a prop with heavy money is going to move quickly. It's not like a spread where millions and millions and millions of dollars and people are betting it. It's not like, a couple people bet the Cowboys, this is going to drop the number. Books take that. They're not going to drop it unless something drastic happens. With props, though, they can really be moved. So you can create absolutely massive value if you jump on these early. And I do think that some of these, you do have to think into the narrative. To me, I know where I wanted to go with Zeke. I really respect Tampa's front seven. So that was one of the dominoes that I kind of planted early, that I don't think Dallas is going to run the ball effectively. So the next question I have for you, if they don't run it effectively, and Chad is kind of asking this, do you think that Zeke can catch the ball? Do you think that guys like CeeDee Lamb and Amari are more involved? Or do you think they just can't move the ball at all across the board?
Honestly, I think so much of this is trying to separate the DFS element of Dak Prescott being down so much and throwing the ball and having value there versus the real life difficulty of going up against this particular defense, this particular night, missing this particular lineman in Martin, right? So normally, if you ask me, a futures play on Zeke and maybe taking an advantage of a lower number for receptions or receiving yards, I think there's a path to that, especially because Dallas has 3 guys that they can consistently throw the football to, with, you know, Cooper kind of being there on a little bit higher with Lamb, and then you have Gallup. But this game tonight, if I'm not fading Ezekiel Elliott's rushing yards, I'm not touching Zeke. I think that there is way too much unknown and really not too much to go on that turns Ezekiel Elliott into Marshall Faulk or, you know, some amazing pass catcher.
I don't love the number. If it was, again, this is why we're dealing with very, very small numbers when we talk about Zeke receptions. It's 3.5 right now. The over is plus 100, so a straight toss up. Under minus 135. If it was 2.5, even if it was slightly juiced to the over, I may look there. I just don't know. 4 receptions is a pretty sizable number, and Pollard's lined at 1.5, juiced to the over. So the books are saying that they think he's going to get involved a little bit. I'm kind of indifferent to it, but I don't think I want to go over 3.5 there. To me, I'd rather take a shot if you like that. Go to Amari on the outside. He could see upwards of 10 targets tonight. His receptions prop 5.5. It is juiced to the under too. So not getting a lot of love for this Dallas offense. And maybe that just speaks to maybe Dak just is not going to be, he of course is coming off major surgery. And then if anyone, I'm sure most of you watched Hard Knocks, and then who knows about this arm issue that didn't look like a big deal, but there are more questions than answers right now with the leader of the team.
I think I'm trying to look at somebody on Tampa that I can take advantage of not being a key focus, as well as what you mentioned with Dallas's defense. Hey, at the very least, like if we give Dallas's defense the benefit of the doubt, they're bootstrapping themselves out of a shithole that they were in last year. If we don't give them the benefit of the doubt, then they're in a lot of trouble tonight. Now, I think that there's going to be some middle ground to it, but how consistently are they going to stop the tight end position? How consistently are they going to be able to neutralize a guy like Antonio Brown, who may just be open due to circumstance? So I'm looking specifically at Gronk, and I think to a lesser extent, OJ Howard, as well as Antonio Brown on receiving yards and receptions. In fact, I would even look at a third one I would throw out there. We can look at these individually, but a third one that I actually really like because I think the number is high enough to scare some people away, although I do think that it's very feasible, and that's Chris Godwin, 21.5 over as his longest reception, because we know there are going to be shots down the field. Let's look at that real quick in kind of order as I brought it up there. The tight end spot specifically for Tampa Bay, we saw them being able to use that to a T right through the Super Bowl. I'm looking at Gronk right now for just yards, not receptions, because the ball's going to move around a lot. Can I get 31 receiving yards from Rob Gronkowski tonight? I believe I can. I think that there's going to be volume there, Ben, to use one of your key phrases, where at the very least he's going to be targeted 5-6 times, I think, overall in the game. I like that over 30.5 for Gronk as far as receiving yards.
Interesting. So that is something I want to kind of pass it right back to you quickly here, because my one question, Tampa, I've said a couple of times, they returned basically intact. The one spot that's not really intact is OJ Howard coming back. Do you think that that is going to have a direct impact on Gronk, or do you say, you know what, they can coexist? They're just such a dynamic offense. Both of them can get targets, because OJ Howard obviously showed some signs before the injury.
This is where I love the narrative element of it, and it drives you crazy because you stick to the variance and the data and all that, right? The numbers. But I think what I defer to here is more the human element of it. Tom Brady dropping back and Tom Brady going into battle tonight is going to want to rely on the constant, the figure who was able to rely on in the Super Bowl, mind you. I'm not saying OJ Howard's going to have a bad year. I just don't want to bet on the unknown week one. I don't think OJ Howard steps in and lives up to that hype when he was drafted in the first round years ago. I think it's going to take time for him to work into the offense. I also think, Ben, back to the point about Brady, this is all about a trust factor. There's no quarterback, including Aaron Rodgers, who I trust more as far as their track record of moving the ball around like Brady. So if there's one thing I can factor in, that's why I think Antonio Brown has value. It's the trust factor of Rob Gronkowski. It's the trust factor of Antonio Brown, two guys that Brady went out of his way to ensure the team brought on and kept throughout the offseason as well. So I think there's a lot of value there in going with Brady and trying to get inside Brady's head and saying, it just may come down to trusting Rob Gronkowski more so than OJ Howard on the field.
I don't think that's a bad take by any stretch. I lean to more of the Antonio Brown just because, I like guys where Antonio Brown's the type of player, they could have a couple plays that are strictly designed for him that are a screen pass, and those are auto catches basically. So you shave a couple off a 4.5 point reception prop. I think he can get a couple easy targets, easy completions, and then we're only looking for 2 or 3 downfield completions. Just for reference, sometimes what I try to do is work backwards. You have Tom Brady's pass completions 25.5 tonight. So if he comes in around that number, where do those say 25, 26 completions go to? You've got Mike Evans, who's kind of more of a red zone threat, a big target. You've got Godwin, who looks okay, but there's got to be more than that. I think Antonio Brown can get a reasonable target share tonight. You've mentioned, the tight ends. Fournette and the backs are not a huge element of this passing game. So I do feel pretty comfortable that the guys on the outside will really make up the majority of this.
Antonio Brown, and this is something that is not discussed enough, and just through knowing you, working with you, dare I say, becoming your friend here, which could be a one-way thing. You can easily shut that down. You get such a novice interpretation of odds that is now permeated through, because gambling Twitter only shows you the wins, etc. Oh, minus 140. I see it now move from 150 to 140. It's back up to now 145. But people would say, and not everybody, but some people may say, Rasa, why are you telling me to lay 145? Why are you telling me to lay 150 on a bet? We should be finding value here. Give me something that's plus 105. Give me something that's plus 110. Well, the real world doesn't work that way, Ben, where there are plenty of times in which if you have conviction with data, narrative, anything behind it, there are plenty of examples where you would lay 2 units to win 1.
Yeah, it's all just the math problem at the end of the day. So you're just evaluating the line against the chance of success. So if a team is minus 300, wow, you got to lay a ton of juice. Who wants to do that? Well, if you evaluate them that they're 95% chance to win the game, you should be smashing that line. On the flip side, and I think this is the more underutilized thing, if you have a team, you're getting 4-1, you have to realize that you're going to lose that bet a majority of the time. But it still could be a fantastic spot, and you may only cash that ticket 35% of the time. You're going to come out well ahead in the long term. So that's what we're going to try to do here, is just evaluate these lines against the chance of success. That's really all it comes down to. And Antonio Brown tonight, I feel comfortable laying the juice because I think more often than not, he's going to cash this ticket, and I can overcome that.
Is there another element to anything tonight from a prop standpoint that we missed or deserves some attention? And again, BetMGM, you're going to have a bunch of different ways that you can make money, including the rush receiving yards total prop. I was looking at that for Ronald Jones, knowing, of course, that the majority of this is going to come from the running game. I mean, he's at 47.5 as far as his rushing total is tonight. The addition of receiving yards is only 56.5. Now, the problem, of course, is that I'm not getting anything back. If I'm going to combine those two, and I'm going to go off the point you just made about both running backs not being a major or key factor in the passing game, then for those two to hit, rushing yards and receiving yards at 56.5, even though it's a lower number with just a little bit of receiving yards involved in there, I need a little bit more than minus 115 on that. I'd like it to be even money, something along those lines, because look, I'm taking a risk that Ronald Jones is going to get 10 receiving yards tonight. That's a risk.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, Ronald Jones is a guy, I think he's more of a polarizing DFS option. Don't mind going out there, because Dallas, on the flip side, they allowed 5 yards per rushing attempt. That was 30th in the league. I think they'll be better than that this year, but not by much, to be honest. So there is a narrative. If you're looking, Tampa Bay, sizable favorite, what will they be doing late? They'll probably be gearing down and running the ball. But at the same time, I don't know. Tom Brady's the type of guy, obviously he has full command of the offense. It's not like a team they're going to go into a shell. They'll still be throwing. I think Ronald Jones is more of an explosive type play, and I see his prop at 47.5. There are guys like this. I think he's live to, supersede that by 40 yards, or he has like 10 yards rush. It's a big range of outcomes. So I don't really love the standalone prop, the coin toss. I'd rather be aggressive with him and do a booster type prop where it's like Ronald Jones has 100 yards rushing and hope that he just explodes.
That's a great point there, to try and take advantage of something you're going to get back. And just looking at 100 yards rushing, that's a plus 700 return.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think you have a better output there than trying to get over under 47.5. Obviously, he cashes that more often, but I think when he does cash that, he's live to really explode. And there's also a lot of times where it's just a non-factor where, I'd rather have the higher multiplier output.
I'm going to chicken out, but I'm going to meet you halfway. Okay. And I'm going to play him 75 plus rushing yards at plus 300 back, which is still a hell of a return. But at the same time, it eliminates that 25-yard window, right? It eliminates that gap of being at 92 yards and they're up by 28 points. And now it's just, he's in the bench like everybody else with, 6 or 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Ideally, if you want that minus the explosion that you could predict, and that's where I think the 100 plus comes in, then you're really looking at just more ball control for a team that's up a lot over Dallas, as opposed to trying to work the run. They're not going to commit to and stick to the run if it's a 3-7 point game. You're going to see Brady drop back and throw the football.
No doubt. The thing I like about Ronald Jones is he has some explosive ability. You could get there on a couple giant plays. And again, that's kind of how I'm factoring him in. We already had Lofty, who was in chat, Matt G.
I just saw it.
Breaking down Showdown this morning. We've got multiple hours of Showdown content coming up tonight. So we're going to be talking a lot more about Ronald Jones there. From a betting standpoint, like I said, I think he's a high range, high variance type guy. Maybe a sprinkle on a big time prop like that, but not touching his straight minus 110 prop.
We have to hit Lofty's prop that he hit us up with in the chat before we get out of here. We also have our Lock It Up segment where we'll continue to do this throughout each one of our shows, give you a little bit of a taste of what's to come and maybe something outside the box, or just go back to college. Another one of Ben's wheelhouse here, betting you each and every Wednesday. Ben and Matt, make sure you are part of that. Get your podcast wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to that. Subscribe here to the Awesemo Odds channel, right? Make sure you hit a thumbs up there before you get out of here. The notification bell, so you're not missing this live show now 3 days a week. And take advantage, as Ben mentioned, we have a ton of DFS content leading up to lock. So you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of everything that we have free today, the MLB player rankings and the NFL Showdown single game top plays. You're going to need that tonight. Before we get out with our Lock It Up segment here, Lofty is bullish. Now, we put this out earlier. I think both of us were under the 14.5 carries. Lofty, on the other hand, is bullish about this one here.
Yeah, I think the first thing it speaks to us, he got a good number for him. I got a good number, and I think you did as well. There's some under 15.5s out there, and there's some over 13.5s out there. I get what he's saying, that they're not going to just abandon Zeke. And that is true. But at the same time, it's an extra game this year. This game script could be bad. They've got Pollard. The offensive line is banged up. And we've seen in losses, he has gone under this number at a fair clip. So it'll be close. There's no doubt about it. I do think, though, in this particular game, that Zeke could be used maybe in some other areas instead of straight carries. And I wouldn't be stunned. Right. I like the rushing yards much more to go under. I don't think he's going to have a massive volume game either, though.
Yeah, Lofty's at 14.5. Over is even money at plus 100. So your point about it moving up from 13.5, clearly there's return right there. And again, the game script could easily be 16, 18, 19 carries. You have that bet at plus 100. To Lofty's point, I think you feel really good about that ticket going into this game tonight. Makes sense.
Yeah, let's land on 14. I know Lofty will agree to that. He wins, we win. Easy game. We'll middle it.
All right, let's look at this. Each and every show here, we're going to wind down with something we call Lock It Up. It could be best bet of the night. It could be something in the world of college. It could be a poll on Russian ping pong that I don't have today. It could be Ben trying to avoid losing a 15th straight tiebreaker in tennis. Whatever it is, we call it Lock It Up, and we want to get you informed and really some money on stuff outside of the average, or really what people are looking at here in the NFL. You want to start here before we get out of here?
Sure. I would I have turned the tide in tennis. That's true. You've seen results. We are going to be back tomorrow. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to talk about a lot of college games, but I want to get one out there right now because it's time sensitive. And we've talked about the numbers that are really important. NC State on Saturday is a 2.5 point favorite, but they're going quickly. I see threes out there across the board. I want 2.5. They're going into Mississippi State. NC State rolled South Florida 45-0. Mississippi State, if you look at the box score, you say, oh man, shaky start. They won 35-34 against Louisiana Tech. They were down 34-10 in that game, and they made a miraculous comeback. I do not like that team. Mike Leach's teams are one-dimensional. They throw the ball all over the place. NC State, 2 all-conference linebackers. The whole secondary is back. They had 200-yard rushers in that opening game. I think they're going to absolutely gash them. I don't care that they're on the road. NC State is going to beat Mississippi State pretty handily, in my opinion. So that is one. We're going to lock it up right now, put the stamp of approval, and get that in before Saturday.
We need some sort of graphic of like a stamp.
I
like,
want the
bang.
Wedding Crashers, you lock it up. No, you lock it up GIF. That's what I always think of when I hear lock it up. But
just give Jordan a show and he'll come back with look, this guy's got like 60 Eric Lindquist ripped memes ready to pull out of his back pocket. I'm sure he can come up with
one of those stamps. You know those stamps? Stamp of approval.
Yes. Look, as somebody holding an over 6.5 win total for NC State, I love it. I absolutely love it. I got it at even money, by the way. Oof.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty good this year. They got dudes. They're, like I said, I cannot stress that defense. And Mississippi State, I know it was a shaky start, and I actually respect Louisiana Tech. I don't think they're a good team. So there we go. Where are you going for your first lock it up?
I'm going to leave you with this thought. And again, it's time sensitive as it's already moved up 1 point here. This is all narrative. Okay. Kansas just came off rushing the God. I'm sorry.
I said, dear God, go ahead.
Because of the narrative element.
Just because I hear the word Kansas and it just equates me to say that. It's a reflex. What can I say? Just that team.
Nobody, I thought it was the reflex of me saying narrative and like, here we go again. Shander with another one out of his ass. This one I think makes some sense.
Kansas, my God.
Look, Kansas, all right. Kansas just celebrated rushing the field after beating an FCS team. All right. That is a major red flag of letdown about to happen. On the flip side, they're taking on a Coastal Carolina team, Ben, who can't afford to narrowly get by anybody if they want to play in a big bowl come the end of the season. They're fully in tune with knowing they have to beat the utter piss out of every single team they face. Kansas, on the other hand, it's a nature of a bad team having this big win. There's a letdown to be. I got in at 25. I see it at 26. I would still push this up to 27.5 for Coastal Carolina because this is an absolute beatdown ready to happen.
I don't hate that. It's been dropping, which has been surprising to me for some reason there. Before we get out of here, little opportunities. Chat, we're going to be doing this each and every day, and we're going to be revisiting it. Drop your lock it ups in chat if you have any, and we will talk about them on the next show because we want to get on a run here. I feel very good about mine. I'm going to have to watch the show back to hear. I blacked out when you were talking about Kansas. I honestly don't even know what you said, but you said something. And so we're going to replay that for tomorrow's show. You get a stay of execution too, because that game is tomorrow night. So when we're on the show tomorrow, we won't know what happened just yet. I do think Coastal Carolina is a damn good team and they run the ball down people's throats. So I see what you did there and I can get on board, but I'm very excited. I'm excited for football tonight, and I am certainly excited to keep this show going. It is just the start of big things here at Awesemo Odds. We've got so much stuff from BetMGM each and every week, and I've said this before, they are giving money away, not just with the risk-free bet. There are just ample lines to take advantage of. They want you guys in the door, and we want to provide the content to make sure you're making some money while you're in there.
At JazzRaz DFS, couldn't have said it better myself. At Shander Show for me. Thank Jordan for producing the show. And as Ben mentioned, the best way to keep this show alive, the best way to help us continue to build this is make sure you are subscribed to the Awesemo Odds channel. You hit us up with a like, smash that thumbs up button. See, my voice is going at the perfect time. Have a great night. We're back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Awesemo Odds channel with the Awesemo Betting Show. And look, we had a couple of good suggestions too. So we might have to come back for a name on this as well. Just to clarify, Lofty's over 13.5, not 14.5. He was saying that 15 times. I didn't want to misrepresent his play. All right, Rasa, we're back tomorrow. That's Ben. I'm Eytan. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.